got the Birds, 365 Mac guys. Sam McMullen and Jody McDonald with you. Here with us is one of our faves. Does a great job covering the Eagles day in and day out for the Athletic, Mr. Bo Wulf. Bo, how's your summer been?
Well, sweaty, especially the last couple of days up in Florham Park. Those are the hottest days of camp. Wouldn't you agree, John?
Yeah, it was brutal. It was brutal in Florham Park. They saved the hottest for last. I wanted to bring Bo on for a couple reasons. One, it's he knows it's 53-man roster time. This is
heavy as the head that wears the crown.
Yes, the reigning defending champion for 2 years. But I wanted to have, it's a championship sort of Thursday because we also have the joint practice champions of the world, the Philadelphia Eagles. 4-0, the 72 Dolphins finally have some competition as undefeated. It's over. The Eagles have won every joint practice. Are we overstating that, Bo Wulf?
I don't think we're overstating that is what happened. If you are taking that to mean the Eagles are going to go 17-0, then maybe you're getting ahead of yourself. But I think it's true that they, objectively were the better team each of those 4 practices. Now they went out and then got killed in the preseason game against the Patriots. So that tells you how much that matters, even though they weren't playing most of their starters. But I thought yesterday the closing period was interesting because it was one of those competitive periods where they set everything up in the situation. It was the same situation for all 4 units. The offense was getting the ball at the 25-yard line, down 8 points with 45 seconds left, no timeouts. So you had to go and score. And all 4 times, the Eagles' first-team offense against the Jets' first-team defense, the Jets' first-team offense against the Eagles' first-team defense, the twos against the twos. All 4 times, the Eagles won each of those 4 periods. And I thought that was, that was about a fair representation of what the last 2 days of practice sort of looked like.
If I were to say, Bo, that this might have been the best practice that Jalen Hurts had, waiting it a little bit because it was against opposition rather than just a teammate, would that be a fair assessment of yesterday's Jalen Hurts level of competency?
Well, I have to be honest. Yesterday, I was watching mostly the Eagles defense, and my partner, Zach Berman, was watching the offense. We flipped it the day before. But I remember, I think it was the first practice against the Patriots where Jalen Hurts had a really good day. And you could, if you were following the Patriots beat writers, they were all like, wow, this guy is unbelievable. He's better than both of our quarterbacks. But I think it's, generally speaking, I think it's fair to say that over the course of camp, Jalen Hurts has sort of steadily improved all the way along the way. The beginning of camp, it was a little bit up and down. He was struggling to complete passes over the middle of the field, I think. And since then, especially the last week, I think he's been very good. And I think there's real reason for optimism about, what this offense could potentially be like if everybody stays healthy.
All right. Well, Bo, let's start with Jalen and the overriding philosophy. It seems like the Eagles value joint practices more than preseason games. And obviously, it's not their fault that he got sick before week 2 of preseason. Certainly looks to me, I would think to you, that he's probably not going to play against the Jets. So if that holds to be true, he's going to show up week 1 in Atlanta with 10 preseason reps under his belt. Are you comfortable with that? Have you seen enough in these joint practices to say, okay, Jalen Hurts, young player, obviously there's going to be a learning curve no matter what, but are you comfortable he's going to be ready to hit the ground running week 1?
I don't know if I would guarantee that he's going to hit the ground running, but I have no problem at all with the way that they have handled Jalen Hurts. It's not like he has been splitting reps with the ones. He's gotten every rep with the ones over the course of the summer. I am sort of the camp that the preseason is overrated to begin with. And, just like the way that Nick Sirianni has set up training camp, it has been, to our eyes, a bit of a lighter camp than we're used to. The players say that that's not necessarily fair because they're going all out on the reps that they do get, but they have been shorter practices than we're used to. And Sirianni has said the goal is to get everybody to week 1 healthy. And to their credit, it looks like that's going to be the case. They have not suffered any.
Oh, don't tell me
Bo froze up on us. But he was talking about, we'll try to get Bo back. He was talking about they've gotten, and we do have Bo back, they've gotten players healthy, probably Tyree Jackson, the most serious injury
Which, I mean, if the
yeah.
most serious injury is your third tight end, you've done a pretty good job.
Yeah. But I do want to, there are certain, if you go back to preseason week 2, and by the way, I don't disagree, the young receivers, and we're talking about a rookie first round pick. We're talking about 2 second-year players in Jalen Reagor and Quez Watkins. They played the first half of football. So it seemed to be, at least to me, a little bit of a disconnect, realizing, okay, these young guys need reps. The importance of the position, maybe this young guy doesn't need reps. Is there a disconnect with that?
I don't think so. I mean, Devontae Smith's never played in the NFL, and he was coming off a week and a half injury, so those reps were important to him. I mean, this is Jalen Hurts' first time in this offense, but he started 4 games last year. It's not like he's never played in the NFL and seen what the speed of the game is like. So if he's your number 1 quarterback, which he obviously is, I have no problem at all with them making sure that he stays healthy, especially knowing that his playing style is one that probably welcomes more hits than maybe other guys.
Both 2 guys who are both definitely going to be on your 53. If you need to take notes here to defend your championship, feel free to take everything I say as gospel. Both Josh Sweat and Derek Barnett are going to be on this team. No great shakes there. How are they going to break up the reps? This is a new defensive coordinator. We can judge what we want by practice and or the 2 preseason games. How do you think? We know they're both going to play and they're going to rotate with each other. One is going to get slightly more than the other, or is it significantly more than the other? How do you see the Sweat-Barnett breakdown working?
Well, I mean, I certainly think that Josh Sweat over the course of the summer has earned the lion's share of that playing time at right defensive end. Derek Barnett has been fine, but nothing special. Josh Sweat has been one of the more consistently impressive players on the field. We don't know exactly what kind of rotation Jonathan Gannon's going to go with, but my guess is probably something like 65-35 in favor of Josh Sweat at this point.
And Barnett's been banged up as well, so
right.
that comes into it as well. I want to get to the 53-man roster, Bo, because
Bo, I did take the crown from you, John. So
yes, I'm a former champion. Bo's the current champion. Now, I want to get your philosophy, 2-time champions. We want to get that. Reigning, defending, 2-time champion. I'm going to go Paul Heyman. Rest, that's for Jody. But are you having as much? I'm having a little bit more difficulty this year. Don't have a beat on Nick Sirianni as much as Doug Peterson. A lot of injuries complicating matters. What do you do? Rodney's going to be there. We know they have to carry him. What are they going to do with Landon Dickerson? What are they going to do with Tyree Jackson? Is it a little bit murkier for you than a normal year when you're gearing up to defend your championship?
I was talking to somebody else about this yesterday, and I think this is the most difficult year that we've had. Usually it's like, there are a couple spots that are up for grabs, but you don't know who is going to get them. Whereas this year, there are so many machinations with the injured guys, as you said, the fact that the Eagles have the number 6 waiver priority, which means that they can probably afford to go light at a few positions, knowing that they're going to be able to add somebody. It wouldn't be crazy for them to carry 4 wide receivers or 3 running backs into week 1, knowing that they could maybe add somebody. And the other thing that we have to keep in mind is, there are still the practice squad rules from last year that have carried over. 16 practice squad spots, and you can elevate guys for game day. So, somebody like T.Y. McGill, for instance, who sort of on merit has had a good enough camp to be on the roster, but he's a vested veteran. Do you want to guarantee his salary when you could probably slide him onto the practice squad, elevate him when you need to, and then see how things shake out? And obviously also the injured reserve return rule, which means that, for instance, a guy like Tyree Jackson, they could carry him on the roster, put him on injured reserve before week 1, cut Richard Rodgers, and then bring him back once Tyree Jackson's on injured reserve. So I think there are a lot of different variables and machinations more than years past. And as you said, the first year of Nick Sirianni's partnership with Howie Roseman, we don't know. This is a team that should be thinking about the long term, but if Nick Sirianni is going to pound the table for somebody like Jordan Howard, is Howie Roseman going to let him have him?
And I saw a note last night, I think it was on Pro Football Talk, as a matter of fact, that all players that sign with a new team, once they're released, that if it's going to be practice squad and or even the 53, that they have to spend basically 5 days in quarantine, going from one team to another. If you are already part of an organization, then you don't have to do that. So very good chance that if the Eagles are 16 deep on the practice squad, that a minimum of 15 are going to be guys who've already been here throughout camp, if not all 16 out of 16, Bo?
I would say, I mean, maybe not all 16. I'm sure the Eagles will have some guys they want to bring in, but I would imagine that, the heavy majority of those 16 will be guys that we've seen here.
All right, two of the most, I think, lightning rod type players, because they've been premium picks recently, are Andre Dillard and JJ Arcega-Whiteside. My partner here thinks Andre Dillard's potentially going to get cut. I say no shot. I'm at 100%. The Eagles might try to trade him, but if they can't, he's going to be on the roster. They're going to, even though maybe merit-wise, he doesn't deserve there. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, if this is a meritocracy, Bo, shouldn't be on this football team. The rope might be running out for JJ Arcega-Whiteside, but you can also make a case this is not the deepest team in the world at wide receiver. You really want to keep Travis Fulgham? He's not had a good camp. John Hightower hasn't really flashed, showed a little bit more recently, including yesterday. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Andre Dillard. Where are you with those two players?
So I'm with you on Dillard. I just don't think they would be willing to fully release him. I think they'd be happy to trade him if they get any kind of reasonable offer. The problem with Dillard, obviously, is aside from him not being a good enough player to start, although Jordan Mailata, has earned that job more than just Dillard has lost it. Dillard can only play one position, right? So if he's going to be on the team, I think there's a good chance he's inactive on game day because he can only play left tackle. So you're going to want somebody active on game day who can cover multiple positions. But I don't think that they're going to be willing to fully cut bait because they can keep insisting that he is a starting caliber player. Sirianni won't call the left tackle battle, even though everybody knows how that's going. As for JJ, I like JJ Arcega-Whiteside. He's a nice kid. You root for him. He's had a pretty good summer, but he's had better summers in the past. This is probably his worst training camp, even though he's been okay. The flexibility to play in the slot now gives him some more versatility. So I can sort of see the argument, but he doesn't play special teams. He's not going to get on the field. I don't think that he is, merit-wise good enough to make this roster. I would probably rather have John Hightower than JJ Arcega-Whiteside because at least you've got some big playability. And more importantly, I would rather have, probably 8 guys who are going to get cut across the league. So right now, water gun to my head, I would have Dillard on and Arcega-Whiteside off.
All right, Bo, I'm going to make a couple of statements. Feel free to disagree with any of them. Say, what the hell are you talking about, Jody? Or you can acknowledge that I'm right. And it will lend itself to a question. The best running back on the Philadelphia Eagles is Miles Sanders. Total game, all-around package, going to be the lead dog. How much of that is going to lead to touches and percentages and everything else, we'll find out over time. But he's going to be the main guy. The best receiver out of the backfield of the Eagles running backs, hopefully, and the little that we've seen of him, it seems to be the case. That's why they drafted him, is going to be Kenneth Gainwell. And if I had to pick one guy to try and get big yards or the key yards, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, to go between the tackles, follow Mailata, follow Lane Johnson, follow Brooks or whatever, would be Jordan Howard. What does Boston Scott do that you would say is the best thing on a Philadelphia Eagle running back room? Is there anything? Will he be getting reps this year?
So the one thing that you said that I disagree with is that Jordan Howard is definitely the best guy between the tackles.
Okay.
I don't get the Jordan Howard love from this summer. We do not get to, in training camp, they are not tackling. So there's no way to really evaluate how good he's been between the tackles. He had that one really nice blitz pickup in the first preseason game, but he also in the second preseason game, it was like a 3rd and 1, and there was a hole there, and he didn't get it. And he was one of, if not like the worst running back in the NFL last year from a production standpoint. He was a vested veteran. You would guarantee his contract. I do not see why he would be on the week 1 roster. And I'm not so sure that, Boston Scott isn't better at picking up 3rd and short than Jordan Howard is necessarily. Boston Scott is, I believe, aside from Jordan Howard, I think Boston Scott is the second best at all of those categories that you said. I think he's the second best receiver and maybe the best receiver as Gainwell comes along. He's the second best pass protector, which you might not expect given his size, but he's willing to throw his body in there. And I think he's a fine runner between the tackles. And maybe more consistent at actually hitting the holes he's supposed to than Miles Sanders is. So like entering this summer, I was like, maybe Boston Scott's role is his spot on the roster is not so secure. But given the options, I think he should be on this team, and I think he will be on this team.
Well, I want to expand that out to Kenny Gainwell a little bit at the running back position, because it seems like, and certainly in Florham Park, Bo, as things have ramped up late in camp, especially when the Eagles go hurry up, obvious passing situations, they're trying to get Kenny Gainwell on the field instead of Miles Sanders. We know the drop struggles Miles has had throughout the summer. Is that just trying to feel where Kenny Gainwell is, or do you think he's making a run to be that 3rd down back? He's going to be the guy on the field late in games that the Eagles are behind and need to throw the football.
Yeah, I think this has been very interesting over the past 2 days. When they go to those situational drills where it's the end of the half, it's a 2-minute drill. Kenny Gainwell has been the running back on the field, not Miles Sanders. And as you pointed out, Miles Sanders has been dropping passes left and right all summer long. I've never seen anything like it. And Gainwell, I think it's probably a little bit of both. They're trying to see if he can handle this role. Obviously, pass protection is going to be the kind of thing that is going to be really important. But I think there's a good chance that even if it's not week 1, I think early on, there's a good chance that Kenny Gainwell is going to be playing significant snaps and being, the 3rd down back, if you will, or just sort of the 2-minute drill guy.
I, again, need both of you guys because it's what you do for a living. You'll correct me when I'm wrong, if I'm wrong. I believe I read this week that Dhani Jones is the all-time leader for the Philadelphia Eagles in tackles in one season at 128.
Interesting.
Did I get that right?
I don't know, but I believe you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have no idea, but you sounded so certain of it.
And I know where you're going, and I'm going to tell you, Alex Singleton will break that record this year.
That's exactly where I'm going. And the extra game, the way that he's played, new Jonathan Gannon defense, maybe they'll actually give the linebackers a chance to make some plays. Is he going to jump himself into the Eagle record book this year, Alex Singleton?
I could see it. I really could. Yeah. He has been unbelievable this camp. And I think part of it is the way that the defense is designed. There's a little bit more of the defensive line holding things up front, not quite two gapping, but not going fully just attack mode as it was with Jim Schwartz, which frees things up a little bit for the linebackers, specifically Alex Singleton. And he has been like a whirling dervish throughout the summer since he came back from COVID. I have like every expectation that if he stays healthy, Alex Singleton will be, among the league leaders in tackles.
Yeah, I think he'd break it in 12 games. He almost broke that last year. He started 11 games. So I'm very confident. Alex Singleton is one of those guys, just a good football player. Finally got his opportunity and seized that opportunity. So let's keep it a linebacker, Bo. I want to talk about the Sam linebacker because it's been this sort of weird hybrid position. The Eagles are trying Jannard Avery, Joe Osman before he was waived, Patrick Johnson. It's not a lot of proven expertise there at that particular position. Is Jonathan Gannon really going to roll the dice? Then you had Jannard Avery's not even out there. He's had a couple groin issues on both sides.
Doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, it does not sound fun. Could it be Patrick Johnson week 1? Or I heard this, and I give credit to Mike Kay threw this out, friend of the show, friend of ours. Could Alex Singleton move to that position? TJ Edwards sort of take over the weak side linebacker position, and then you have Alex sort of playing a dual role. He'd be one of the 3 down linebackers as well, obviously, with Eric Wilson.
That's interesting. I have thought about it a different way, where they could have Eric Wilson play that role and have TJ Edwards in the middle, because Eric Wilson has done a little bit of that in Minnesota. But the Sam thing is very interesting to me too, because you would think that if it is going to be such an important role in the defense, the Eagles would have committed more resources to the position, right? It wouldn't have been up just to Avery, Osman, and a 7th round pick and Patrick Johnson. That said, it's not like it has been the base defense. We see it sprinkled in here and there, and they want to get the reps at it. Like with Avery injured, you're right. Like maybe it will just be Patrick Johnson, and they'll see if Avery gets through waivers and try to put him on the practice squad or something like that, or maybe short-term IR. But that said, there's also 2 weeks to go before the season, so maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves injury-wise. But I am fascinated to see what that's going to be like, because if you think about it as like, what's the best way for us to get the 11 best players on the field on defense? It would be hard to convince me that means including Patrick Johnson or Jannard Avery among those 11 guys. There's also a possibility we could see Ryan Kerrigan in that role potentially, because he's done some of that in Washington, although Gannon sort of downplayed that when he talked to us the other day. I am fascinated to see how much they're going to play that, and is it really going to be like up to Avery or Patrick Johnson as much as we have seen?
Bo, want to get your take on this, because I started to get a little pumped up, and then the injury bug did jump in for 2 Eagle draftees from last year. The first week of camp, most of you guys wrote that Davion Taylor was actually making plays and looking good and not looking wet behind the ears, and that Kayvon Wallace could jump in if McLeod is not ready to go at the beginning of the season and actually be their starting safety. Now, of course, both of the guys have been hurt, missed time, a little bit more significant for Taylor than for Wallace, but both of them have had down reps because they haven't been able to go physically. Assuming health for both of the two, and they're on the active 53 on opening day, which is going to get a chance to do a little bit more, which has got a chance to step in and help the Eagles potentially win a game.
Well, certainly Kayvon Wallace has a clearer path, right? Because we don't know when Rodney McLeod is going to get back. And I think that probably if McLeod is not ready for week 1, Wallace, if he's healthy, would get the start next to Anthony Harris. That said, I think relative to fans or maybe to other people, I'm a little bit higher on Taylor and lower on Kayvon Wallace. Kayvon Wallace has been given every opportunity, and he had a couple nice days in practice early in camp. But when it's been like the lights are on or in the preseason games, I've been a little disappointed with what I've seen from him. He had every opportunity last year to get on the field and, couldn't hang. And in the preseason game, against Cam Newton, he spends all week talking trash to Cam Newton from the sideline, and Cam Newton comes out and sort of picks on him in that opening drive. Whereas Davion Taylor, entering this season, I had pretty low expectations, and I thought that he did look the part that first week at camp, and he was getting lots of reps with the ones. Now, it's like linebackers in training camp when they're not live. It's hard to really, truly, fairly evaluate them. But I think that in this scheme, like the way that, for instance, Alex Singleton is let loose to be able to sort of run free, I think that fits Davion Taylor well. And even if he is a little bit slower to recognize, he has the speed to make up for it, right? So I would say that, like, you're telling me that next year one of these players is a starter in 2022, I think I would probably guess Davion Taylor over Kayvon Wallace.
All right. Off the beaten path question, Bo. I'm sure you've seen the viral video of the drone shot going through the Star in Frisco, Texas.
I was unimpressed.
You were unimpressed? That's like the steady cam Goodfellas shot of sports broadcasting, evidently. Well, the Miami Dolphins came out. They did their own. They just had their new facility that opened, I believe, in June. Beautiful. We were just up in Florham Park, as you mentioned. The Jets is about 10 years old, but still beautiful. I love the tree, by the way. Jody does not.
Everybody loves the tree.
I love the tree. Jody does not. I love the tree. At what point does the NovaCare complex become an issue? We're there Sunday, and I'm sure you noticed that Nick Sirianni's on a bullhorn telling the defense the offense isn't backed up, even though they are backed up in the mini practice bubble. So I'm seeing the Star. I got to tour the TCO Performance Center when we were in Minneapolis for the Super Bowl. That's beautiful. We just saw the Jets, Miami. At what point does the NovaCare complex become an issue?
Interesting. Well, first of all, the drone shot. The reason I was so impressed is the team in Paris Saint-Germain, when they got Messi, did the exact same thing, and they did it better. So, like, it was just it was just repetitive for the Cowboys to do that. But I think it's a fair question. Now, the problem is, I think there are problems with the surrounding community and needing approvals from their neighbors to be able to add more to the NovaCare complex. But you're right. Like, I remember when Chip Kelly came in, he was coming from Oregon where they had all that Phil Knight money. And he was like, this little practice bubble, it's not even a full field. Like, what are we doing here? And, it was sort of glaring going up to Jets camp. I didn't realize that they had such a nice facility. The Eagles, the fields are nice, but I think sort of competitive advantage wise, it does seem like it's a little bit, it's almost 30 years old now, right? So it is a little
22 years old, I believe.
Okay.
And what, can't they move to the burbs to get, somewhere?
I don't want them to move to the burbs, John. I have such an easy commute now.
I know. But I'm saying from the Eagles' philosophy, you're right about the neighbors, the city of Philadelphia, which, let's be honest, is not the easiest to deal with at times. I mean, from a competitive advantage standpoint, don't they have to look into that at some point?
Well, I don't know. I mean, what's the competitive advantage really?
Well, I know those teams haven't been successful,
right? I mean, it's if you're trying to lure a coach, right? But is a coach can't you just pay him a little bit more money, and that'll make up for not having an extra 40 yards on the practice field? Like, I do sort of agree with you. It's more from like a prestige standpoint, like Jeffrey Lurie among the other owners. But I don't know that it really has a tangible effect on the outcome of the games.
All right, Bo, I don't want you to have to tip your hand on the 53-man roster thing, but I do.
I'm worried about John.
Well, you should be. But I do need an answer to this question. Let me give you my evaluation of Nick Mullins' performance so far in both practice and in the 2 preseason games. Awful. Yeah. He's not an NFL quarterback. I don't care what his previous stops in San Francisco underneath one of the most genius offensive coordinator / head coaches in the NFL. A lot of those yards, by the way, in garbage time when San Francisco was losing. So I think his numbers are misleading. I don't think he can play a little bit, and I think the injury he suffered has certainly deterred him, and he isn't even what he used to be, and he wasn't all that big a deal when he was used to be. I don't think he should make the team either. Much like Andre Dillard, if you're looking purely at what they've accomplished, they don't have a spot on my team. Is he going to be here? Are the Eagles just going to bring in another quarterback, a third-string quarterback who gets cut somewhere else? How is QB3 going to play out for the Eagles?
I would be shocked if he's on the team. There are too many good numbers at other positions for them to carry him onto the roster, given, as you said, I mean, he's been bad. He hasn't been very good. So there's a chance that he could come in on the practice squad. I think more likely they'll try to find somebody young who they can develop a little bit on the practice squad. But I do not think that the Nick Mullins as QB3 experiment has worked out very well.
Oh, the Nick Mullins era. I'm disappointed. Everybody.
It's too bad for you, John, because McMullen, it's sort of.
Of course. We got to stick together, even that close. But Bo Wulf, Freedom at the Athletic, Birds with Friends, Zach Berman, Bo Wulf, Sheil Kapadia. Always a great listen. That's where I'm going to end it too. Birds with Friends. What the heck? Are you trying to get Danielle Fishel on the show? Are you trying to get Topanga on the show?
If Zach had his druthers, it would have already happened.
Bo, great stuff. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining us today. Mac,
Thanks,
man,
guys.
I'll see you up in the
and John, good luck.
tomorrow.
John, what do you think? When should, I'm curious, when should the deadline be? Because the
I
game is Friday night.
Yeah.
The cuts are on Tuesday, but I feel like they're going to start making cuts sooner. So I'm thinking maybe like first thing Saturday morning. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah. Normally, back in the old days, we did it after the game that night. But
Right.
I think Saturday morning. I think
Like
that's
9
the
a.m.
fair-
Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's the fairest way to go.
Who runs this thing? Do you have to
That's
submit
the
it. Heavy is the head that wears the
Yeah.
crown. It's incumbent
If you're
upon the
the
defending
champion,
champion.
you got to run it. That's the part. That's the
okay.
bad part. So you
Lay-
got to. So Bo's in
Lay
charge
down that
of-
time frame. That's key. You got a big decision to make here.
I know. I think that's the right move. I think 9 a.m. Saturday.
That I would agree with you.
Okay.
Gear
we
up
get
for it
on
and-
air. Let's make it official. 9 a.m.
It's official.
Saturday.
9 a.m. official. All right. Bo, thanks, buddy. Appreciate
Thanks,
it
guys.
greatly. That's Bo Wulf from The Athletic here with us on Birds 365. All right. You just finagled the time to turn in your 53-man roster. You good with 9 a.m. on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm good. Last year was a little bit. I took a beating because I put it in too early, and there was some. But I didn't complain. I just said I went about my business. I kept my head down. I'm just trying to get 1% better, as I always say, Joe.
The non-whining John McMullen here with us on Birds 365. All right, we still got 5 minutes left. We'll come back right here on Birds 365. Don't even think about going anywhere else.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.